My name doesn't matter anymore. Out here, I'm just Smiley. Funny, right? They gave me that name because I never smiled. Not once. Not even when we celebrated a hit, not when we counted money, not when blood was still warm on the pavement. I guess that's what made it stick, the irony of it all. I was 15 when I first saw the blue and black ink. Not on my skin yet, but on the arms of the guys who ran my block in East LA. Back then, I wasn't trying to join a gang. I was just trying to survive. My mom worked 2 jobs, one cleaning offices downtown, the other washing dishes at a Korean restaurant in Koreatown. She left before sunrise and came home after midnight, her hands cracked and bleeding from the chemicals. My old man, he was gone. Walked out when I was 8. Never looked back. Never sent a dime. Never called. That left me and my little sister Maria. She was 12, sweet, innocent. Too innocent for the neighborhood we lived in. We had a tiny apartment on the corner of 4th and Soto, right in the heart of Boyle Heights. The walls were thin, the paint was peeling, and you could hear every argument, every gunshot, every siren through the walls. Our building was sandwiched between 2 worlds. Crips on one side, Bloods on the other, and MS-13 owned everything in between. I tried to keep Maria safe. Walked her to school every morning, picked her up every afternoon. Made sure she didn't talk to the wrong people, didn't walk down the wrong streets. But the streets? They had a way of finding you, no matter how careful you were. I remember the first time I saw them really do their thing. It was a Tuesday. I was walking home from school, cutting through an alley off Whittier Boulevard because it was faster. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the cracked pavement. I heard shouting first, then a scream, high-pitched, desperate, the kind of scream that makes your blood run cold. I should have kept walking. I should have turned around, gone the long way, minded my own business. But something made me stop. Curiosity, maybe. Stupidity, definitely. I crept closer, pressing myself against the brick wall, and looked around the corner. There were 4 of them, MS-13. I recognized the tattoos immediately. The Gothic letters across their necks, the teardrops under their eyes, the 3 dots on their hands. They wore baggy clothes, oversized dickies, flannel shirts buttoned to the top. But it was their eyes that got me. Cold. Empty. Like looking into a grave. They had some guy on his knees in the middle of the alley, hands tied behind his back with duct tape. He was older, maybe 30, wearing a stained white tank top and jeans. Blood was already running down his face from where they'd beaten him. He was crying, begging in Spanish, his words tumbling over each other in panic. Por favor, hermanos. Tengo familia. Tengo hijos. Por favor, no me maten. One of them, tall, shaved head, covered in ink from his neck to his fingertips, pulled out a machete. Not a knife, a machete, the kind you see in movies, long and curved, the blade catching the last rays of sunlight. I froze. My legs wouldn't move. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it was gonna burst out of my chest. I wanted to run, to scream, to do something, but I couldn't. I just stood there, watching. The tall one said something I couldn't hear. Then he raised the machete high above his head. The man on his knees screamed one last time. Isiomo. Blade came down. I'll never forget that sound. It wasn't like in the movies, clean and quick. It was wet, crunching. The machete got stuck halfway through the guy's neck. The tall one had to yank it back and swing again. And again. Blood sprayed everywhere. Across the walls, across his clothes, across the faces of the other gang members. They didn't even flinch. Finally, the head rolled to the side like a kicked soccer ball coming to rest against a dumpster. The body slumped forward. Blood. Pooling around it, spreading across the pavement like spilled paint. The tall one wiped the blade on the dead man's shirt. Then he turned and looked right at me. I don't know how he saw me. I was hidden in the shadows, barely breathing. But he saw me. Our eyes locked. He didn't say a word. He just stared. Then, slowly, he smiled. I ran. I ran faster than I'd ever run in my life, my lungs burning, my legs screaming. I didn't stop until I was inside my apartment, door locked, chain latched, curtains drawn. I sat on the floor of my bedroom, shaking, trying to process what I'd just seen. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes I saw that machete, that blood, that smile. I heard the screams, the wet crunch of the blade cutting through bone. I threw up twice. Maria asked me if I was okay. I told her I had the flu. For weeks I couldn't eat, couldn't focus in school, couldn't think about anything else. I kept replaying it in my head, over and over, like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I started taking different routes to school, started looking over my shoulder constantly, started jumping at every sound. But the thing about MS-13, they don't forget. And they don't let witnesses walk away. A month later, they came to me. I was sitting on my front steps one evening, watching the sun go down, trying to clear my head. A black Impala with tinted windows pulled up to the curb. The engine idled for a moment. Then the doors opened. 3 guys got out. All MS-13, all covered in tattoos. And one of them was the tall one from the alley. His name, I later learned, was Chino. He walked up to me slow, hands in his pockets, that same smile on his face. The other 2 flanked him, arms crossed, staring me down. "You saw something you weren't supposed to see, little man," Chino said in Spanish, his voice calm, almost friendly. I didn't say anything. My mouth was dry. My hands were shaking. I clenched them into fists to hide it. "You know what we do to people who see things they're not supposed to see," he continued, crouching down so we were eye level. I shook my head. "We make them disappear." He let that hang in the air. "But you? You're just a kid. So I'm gonna give you a choice. You can forget what you saw, or you can become part of what you saw." I looked at him, confused. He laughed, a low, rumbling sound. "The streets already know your face, kid. People saw you running that night. Word gets around. So now you're either with us or you're a problem. And we don't leave problems walking around. Understand?" I understood perfectly. This wasn't a choice. It was an ultimatum. Join or die. "What do I have to do?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Chino smiled wider. "Smart kid. You'll start tomorrow. We'll come get you." And that's how it started. Not with pride, not with ambition, not with some fantasy of power or respect. It started with fear, pure, suffocating fear. I joined MS-13 because I was too scared not to. The next day they picked me up in the same black Impala. Chino was driving. He handed me a phone, a cheap burner, and told me I'd get calls. When I did, I was to go to specific corners, stand there and watch. Watch for cops. Watch for rival gangs. Watch for anything suspicious. If I saw something, I'd call a number. That's it. At first it was boring. I'd stand on street corners for hours, watching cars pass, watching people walk by, watching the world move around me like I was invisible. But I learned fast. I learned which cars were undercover cops. I learned which people were customers and which were snitches. I learned how to blend in, how to look like I belonged. After a few weeks, they gave me more responsibility. I started holding packages, small bundles of drugs wrapped in plastic and duct tape. I'd keep them in my backpack, walk around the neighborhood, and make drops at specific locations. A park bench, a dumpster behind a liquor store, a crack in a wall. I never asked what was in the packages. I didn't want to know. By 16, I'd proven myself. I was reliable, quiet, obedient. Chino started bringing me to meetings, introducing me to other members, teaching me the rules, and there were a lot of rules. Rule number 1, never snitch, ever, no matter what. Snitches get dealt with, brutally. Rule number 2, respect the hierarchy. The leaders give orders. You follow them, no questions. Rule number 3, protect the clique. Your gang is your family. You live for them, you die for them. Rule number 4, never show weakness. Fear is a weapon. If you show it, you lose. And rule number 5, blood in, blood out. Once you're in MS-13, you're in for life. The only way out is in a body bag. I got my first tattoo that year. A small MS on my forearm. It hurt like hell, but I didn't flinch. Chino watched me the whole time, nodding in approval. That tattoo was more than ink. It was a brand. A mark. A promise that I belonged to something bigger than myself. By 17, I wasn't just holding packages anymore. I was carrying a gun. A Glock 19, black, compact, easy to hide. Chino gave it to me himself, showed me how to load it, how to hold it, how to aim. He took me to an abandoned warehouse and made me practice shooting at bottles lined up on a crate. "Don't think," he said. "Just shoot. Thinking gets you killed." I learned to shoot without thinking. I learned to move without hesitation. I learned to become exactly what the streets needed me to be. The gang became my family. Chino became my mentor, my father figure, the person I looked up to more than anyone. He taught me everything. How to read people, how to negotiate, how to intimidate, how to kill without leaving a trace. He told me once, sitting in the back of a taco truck at 2 in the morning, "In this life you either eat or get eaten, little man. And we're wolves. We eat." I believed him. I wanted to be like him. Cold, fearless, untouchable, respected. But respect in MS-13? It doesn't come easy, and it sure as hell doesn't come free. I was about to learn that the hard way. I was 19 when they called me up to lieutenant. That's a big deal in MS-13. It's not just a promotion, it's a coronation. It means you're no longer just a soldier following orders. You're giving them. You're responsible for your clique, for the money, for the territory, for the violence. You're a leader. And leaders in MS-13 don't get second chances. Chino pulled me aside one night at a safe house in Boyle Heights. It was a rundown bungalow with bars on the windows and a reinforced steel door. Inside, it smelled like stale beer, cigarette smoke, and sweat. There were maybe 10 guys there, drinking, playing cards, cleaning guns. Chino motioned for me to follow him into the back room. It was just the two of us. He closed the door, handed me a beer, and sat down on a torn-up couch. He lit a cigarette, took a long drag, and looked at me with those dead eyes. "You ready? For this, Smiley?" I nodded. "Yeah, I'm ready." "Good. Because there's something you gotta do first." My stomach dropped. I'd heard the stories. Every lieutenant has to prove himself, has to show that he's willing to do whatever it takes, no matter what, no matter who. "There's a problem," Chino said, his voice flat. "One of our own. A guy named Flaco. He's been talking, running his mouth to people he shouldn't be talking to. We got word he might be cooperating with the cops. I knew Flaco. We'd come up together, been soldiers at the same time. He was a year older than me, skinny, always joking around, always talking. Too much talking, apparently. But I never thought he was a rat." "You sure?" I asked. Chino's eyes went cold. He leaned forward, his face inches from mine. "You questioning me?" "No," I said quickly. "No, I'm not." "Good. Because this is your test, Smiley. You take care of Flaco. You're one of us for life. You're a lieutenant. You got respect, you got power, you got everything. But if you don't," he let the sentence hang in the air, "then you're the problem. And we deal with problems. You understand?" I understood. This wasn't about Flaco. It was about me. About whether I was willing to kill one of my own. Whether I had what it took to lead. "When?" I asked. "2 nights from now. We'll bring him to the spot. You do the rest." I didn't sleep for the next 48 hours. I kept thinking about Flaco. About the times we'd laughed together, shared cigarettes, watched each other's backs. I thought about the time he'd saved my ass during a brawl with some Crips, pulling me out of the fight before I got stomped out. I thought about his stupid jokes, his loud laugh, the way he always talked about his mom and how he was gonna buy her a house one day. But I also thought about what Chino said. In MS-13, loyalty is everything. And if Flaco was a rat, he deserved what was coming. At least, that's what I told myself. Over and over and over. 2 nights later, they brought him to an abandoned warehouse off Soto Street. It was the same place Chino had taken me to practice shooting. The place where I'd learned to kill without thinking. I was already there, waiting. Chino was there too, along with 2 other guys, Casper and Joker. We stood in the middle of the warehouse, surrounded by broken glass, rusted machinery, and shadows. There were gasoline cans lined up against the wall. Duct tape. A plastic tarp spread out on the floor. I knew what that meant. Flaco walked in a few minutes later, smiling. He thought it was just another meeting. Another night with the homies. He didn't see the tarp at first. Didn't see the gasoline. Didn't see the look in our eyes. Then he saw me. Saw the gun in my hand. His smile disappeared. "Yo, what the hell is this?" he said, backing up toward the door. Chino grabbed him by the collar and threw him to the ground. Flaco hit the concrete hard, gasping for air. Casper and Joker pinned his arms down. "You know what this is, you piece of shit," Chino said, his voice ice cold. Flaco started struggling, panic flooding his face. "I didn't say nothing, man, I swear. Whatever you heard, it's a lie. It's a fucking lie. We got proof, Flaco. You talked to a detective, we know." No, I didn't. I swear on my mother I didn't." Chino looked at me. "Smiley, do it." I pulled out my gun. My hands were shaking so bad I thought I was gonna drop it. I'd shot at bottles, at targets, at nothing, but I'd never shot at a person, never looked someone in the eyes and pulled the trigger. Flaco looked at me, tears streaming down his face. "Come on, man, it's me, it's Flaco. We're brothers, remember? We came up together. We're family." I raised the gun, pointing it at his head. My finger hovered over the trigger. "Smiley, please. Don't do this. Please." I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Could feel the weight of the gun in my hand. Could see the fear in Flaco's eyes. And then I thought about Chino. About respect. about power, about everything I'd worked for. I pulled the trigger. The sound was deafening. The gunshot echoed through the warehouse, ringing in my ears long after the bullet left the barrel. Flacco's head jerked back and his body went limp. Blood sprayed across the tarp, pooling underneath him. His eyes stayed open, staring at nothing. I stood there, frozen, staring at what I'd just done. The smell of gunpowder mixed with gasoline. My hands were still shaking. My breathing was shallow. I felt like I was gonna pass out. Chino clapped me on the shoulder, grinning. "Welcome to the top, Smiley." Casper and Joker poured gasoline over Flacco's body. They lit a match and tossed it. The flames roared to life, consuming everything. We watched in silence as the body burned, the smoke rising toward the ceiling, disappearing into the darkness. That night I earned my respect. I became a lieutenant. I became a leader. But I also became something else. I became a monster. After Flacco, everything changed. The way people looked at me, the way they talked to me, the way they moved around me. I wasn't just Smiley anymore. I was the guy who killed his own brother, the guy who didn't hesitate, the guy who would do whatever it took. And in MS-13, that kind of reputation, it's gold. At first, I wore it like armor. I liked the fear in people's eyes. I liked that when I walked into a room, conversations stopped. I liked that younger guys looked at me the way I used to look at Chino. I liked the power, the respect, the control. I ran my clique with an iron fist. 10 guys under me, soldiers, enforcers, kids who would die for me if I asked. We controlled a 6-block radius in East LA from Cesar Chavez Avenue down to 4th Street. Every corner, every alley, every abandoned building. It was ours. We moved weight, cocaine, meth, heroin, kilos at a time. We'd get shipments from suppliers in Mexico, brought across the border in hidden compartments, in trucks, in people's bodies. Once it hit LA, it was our job to distribute it. We had a network of dealers, runners, and customers that stretched from Boyle Heights to South Central. The money was insane. I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars a week. Cash. Stacks of hundreds wrapped in rubber bands, stuffed in duffel bags, hidden in walls and floorboards. I bought everything I'd ever wanted. A new car, a black Chevy Tahoe with tinted windows and custom rims, gold chains, designer clothes, guns, lots of guns. I moved out of my mom's apartment and got my own place in Montebello. 2 bedrooms, brand new furniture, a 60-inch flat screen. I sent money to my mom too, told her it was from a construction job. She didn't believe me, but she took it anyway. Bills were bills. Maria, though, she wanted nothing to do with me. By then she was 17, finishing high school, working part-time at a diner. She'd heard the rumors, knew what I'd become, and she hated me for it. I tried to reach out, showed up at the diner one day, sat at the counter, ordered coffee. She saw me and her face went pale. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, glancing around nervously. "I wanted to see you," I said. "It's been months. I don't want to see you." "Maria, you're a killer, Smiley." She said it loud enough that a few people turned to look. "You think I don't know? You think Mom doesn't know? Everyone knows. I did what I had to do," I said, my voice low. "For us. For you." She laughed, bitter and sharp. "For me? I didn't ask you to become this. I didn't ask you to join a gang. I didn't ask you to murder people. I was protecting you. From what? The only thing I need protection from is you." She walked away, and I never saw her again after that. She moved out a few weeks later, went to live with a friend, cut off all contact. My mom told me she was doing okay, going to community college, trying to build a life without me in it. That hurt more than I thought it would. But I buried it. Pushed it down. Told myself I didn't need her, didn't need anyone. I had my clique. I had my respect. That was enough. Except it wasn't. Because respect built on fear, it's fragile, it's unstable, and it only lasts as long as people are more afraid of you than they are of what might happen if they turn on you. I started noticing things. Small things at first. Whispers that stopped when I walked by. Guys avoiding eye contact. Calls that went straight to voicemail. I'd show up to meetings and sense tension in the air, like everyone knew something I didn't. Paranoia crept in. I started sleeping with my gun under my pillow. Started checking my car for bombs before I got in. Started looking over my shoulder constantly, convinced someone was following me, watching me, waiting for the right moment to take me out. I couldn't trust anyone, not even the guys in my own clique, because in MS-13, loyalty only goes so far. Everyone's looking to move up, and the fastest way to move up? Take out? The guy above you. The nightmares got worse. I'd see Flacco every night, on his knees, begging, and every time I'd pull the trigger again, over and over and over, I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding, gasping for air. I started drinking more, smoking more, using more, anything to drown out the voices, the guilt, the weight of everything I'd done. But it didn't work. The guilt was eating me alive from the inside. I'd killed a brother, burned his body like trash. And for what? Respect? Power? A bigger piece of the empire? It all felt hollow. And then, the betrayal came. One of my guys, a kid named Droopy, 18 years old, covered in tattoos, loyal as hell or so I thought, got picked up by LAPD. Traffic stop turned into a search. They found a gun in his car, unregistered, fully loaded. That's 15 years, easy. Especially with his record. The cops offered him a deal. Give them information, cooperate, and he'd walk with probation. Droopy took the deal. He gave them everything. Names, dates, locations. He told them about the drug shipments, the murders, the weapons. He told them about Flacco, about the warehouse, about me. I didn't know it yet. But the walls were closing in. The FBI came for me at dawn on a Tuesday. I was asleep in my apartment, alone, exhausted from another sleepless night. The first thing I heard was the crash. The front door exploding inward, wood splintering, hinges ripping from the frame. Then the shouting, "FBI, get on the ground! Get on the ground now!" I opened my eyes to see 15 agents swarming my bedroom, dressed in full tactical gear, rifles pointed at my face. Red laser dots danced across my chest. I didn't move, didn't reach for my gun, didn't even breathe. They yanked me out of bed, threw me face down on the floor, and zip-tied my hands behind my back. My face was pressed into the carpet, a knee digging into my spine. I could taste blood in my mouth. "Smiley, you're under arrest for racketeering, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, and first-degree murder." Murder. They said it so casually like it was just another word, but I knew exactly what they were talking about. Flacco. They dragged me out of the apartment in my boxers and a t-shirt, threw me into the back of an unmarked car, and drove me to the federal building downtown. I sat in an interrogation room for hours, handcuffed to a table, staring at a mirror that I knew was a window. Finally, 2 agents came in, a man and a woman. Both in suits, both carrying thick folders. "You're in a lot of trouble, Smiley," the man said, sitting down across from me. "We've got testimony from multiple witnesses. We've got surveillance footage. We've got recorded phone calls. We've got you." I didn't say anything. "Droopy told us everything," the woman said. "About the warehouse, about Flacco, about you pulling the trigger." My stomach dropped. "Droopy. That little bastard. You're looking at life without parole," the man continued. "Maybe. Even the death penalty, depending on how the DA feels. But it doesn't have to be that way. You cooperate, give us names, help us take down the rest of your clique, and we can work something out." I looked at him, looked at her, and I almost laughed. "I'm not a rat," I said. The woman leaned forward. "You don't understand. This isn't a game. This is your life. You help us, you might see the outside world again before you die. You don't, and you'll spend the rest of your life in a cage. I'm not a rat," I repeated. They tried for another hour, threats, promises, bargains, but I didn't budge. Not because I was loyal, not because I believed in the gang anymore, but because I knew the truth. There was no getting out, not for me. I'd burned that bridge the moment I pulled the trigger on Flacco. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Droopy testified. So did 2 other guys from my clique who flipped. They painted me as a cold-blooded killer, a shot caller, a monster, and they were right. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced me to life without the possibility of parole. As they led me out of the courtroom in shackles, I saw my mom in the back row. She was crying. She didn't look at me. Maria wasn't there. Now I'm here. Federal Correctional Institution, Victorville. High security. 23 hours a day in a cell that's barely big enough to stand in. Concrete walls, steel door, a toilet and a sink that barely work. A small window. That shows nothing but barbed wire and desert. I've been here for 3 years now. I'm 24 years old. I'll die here. The first year was the hardest. I thought about killing myself. Thought about it every single day. I'd stand on my bunk, stare at the ceiling, and imagine tying a sheet around my neck. Imagine stepping off. Imagine the silence finally ending. But I never did it. Maybe because I was too scared. Or maybe because I felt like I deserved this. Deserved to rot in this cell for the rest of my life, haunted by the faces of everyone I'd killed. Because I do see them. Every night. Flacco, the others. They stand in the corner of my cell, watching me, judging me, whispering. Sometimes I talk to them. Out loud. I know I sound crazy. I probably am crazy. But I tell them I'm sorry. That I didn't want to do it. That I was just trying to survive. They never answer. People ask me if I regret it. If I do things differently, if I could go back. Honestly, I don't know. I was a kid trying to survive in a world that gave me no other options. But somewhere along the way, survival turned into power. And power turned me into something I can't take back. MS-13 is still out there. Still strong. Still recruiting kids who don't know any better. Still killing. Still spreading. The FBI took me down. But there are 100 more just like me, waiting to take my place. And you know what the crazy part is? None of it was worth it. The respect? Hollow. The money? Gone. The power. Meaningless. All I'm left with is silence. Concrete. Regret. I'm not Smiley anymore. I'm just another number. Another forgotten face. Another life wasted in the name of respect. And the thing I wanted most, the thing I thought I was fighting for this whole time, survival. But in the end, survival was the one thing I lost. The end.